I'm so glad you're here because it's time. Come away into the cinders of memory and the embers of imagination. This is Story Cinders. This story takes place when I was in the first grade. Now this was during the '90s, so I'm not sure how it go now, but this still when they had dads come in and come in front of the class and do like a show and tell type thing and let us know like what they do for their job, occupation, all that type of stuff, right? So before that, like so my teacher had a thing where she was going around the classroom and she would get to everybody, everybody would tell what their daddy did. So I'm adopted. Little background, I'm adopted, so it made navigating things like this a little bit more unique for me. So as she was going around the classroom, I'm like, oh shit, the pressure's on. I gotta come up with a plan. I'm sitting over here sweating, like, okay, I don't want them to know I'm adopted. I never wanted anybody to know I was adopted because kids go from being curious to cruel real fast. And baby, I like to fight, especially back then. It was nothing. But I'm like, okay, how do I participate in this activity without letting anybody know that I'm adopted and that I don't have a dad? Because everybody else seemed to have daddies. And if, I don't know, if they didn't, whatever, as far as they know, I was going to have one. So it's my turn. The pressure's on. So she asked me, she's like, oh, what does your dad do? What's his occupation? Blah, blah. So I'm like, oh, the reason my dad isn't around is because he's an astronaut. Now, mind you, in my child mind, I'm like, how they gonna know I'm lying? Like, how they gonna know? Because it ain't like they can call him and ask him. It ain't like they gonna ever find out. Shit, I don't know where he at. How they gonna know where he at? So I'm like, oh, he an astronaut, and he wanted to take me with him, but he couldn't because he couldn't get my spacesuit off of Layaway in time. So that's the reason why he didn't take me with him. And he would love to be with us, but he's needed in space. So I had to let it be known that he was like an important astronaut, did not just like a regular ass astronaut. He was important. So my teacher, I felt big up to her because I hope she's doing great in life. I felt her looking at me. Now, all the other little kids, they believe me. So I felt looking at me. She knew I was lying. She knew I was lying. And I was not finna meet this woman's eyes so she can look at me in my soul and tell I was lying. I was not about to do it. But she ain't say nothing though. She ain't say nothing. And she was just like, oh, okay. And she went on to, the next student. But looking back, like I said, being adopted is already unique. And I had to come up with different stuff like that because like I said, I felt like it was better for me to make up these stories and tell these lies than for people to know that, I was adopted. So yeah, anyway, as far as my first grade class is concerned, my daddy is still in space. Well, y'all, that's the end of this one, but definitely not the end of our journey. So I will see you next story.